Baker has been the cream in recent laps, meaning he started in 7th about 4 laps ago, and he's been steadily rising. He just passed Dale Earnhardt about a lap ago. Bobby Allison is next up. Son Davey should be next. You can see Earnhardt, the yellow car still in the picture. But Buddy Baker, who has a lot of sentiment among veteran observers, as one of the real...
Oh, we have a problem.
Allison is blowing a tire.
Bobby Allison with a horrible crash here on the front stretch. It has torn out a complete section of protective railing separating it. Alan Kulwicki becomes involved.
Debris and is collecting other cars. There was a lot of debris in the front stretch. Kulwicki was involved. Richard Petty, I think, is another one of the cars. Lots of debris on the front stretch. Now, Bobby's car, to me, appeared to stay together quite well. He did get up into the fencing, but not into the stands.
And it was close, though. He has torn out a whole large area of guardrail. There it is, protecting the crowd from the racetrack. And he came very, very close to going into the stands. The car became airborne and went flying literally into that wall and catch fencing. But fortunately, it did stay onto the racetrack. Bobby Allison is moving around in the race car, and that is certainly good news for us, but he has to be quite shaken after a tremendous crash. The red flag has been brought out, and quite frankly, Larry, I think we're going to have to be red for quite a while because we cannot race with that protective fencing in the shape that it's in. It's just not safe for the spectators.
It's pretty obvious why it was there, happening right underneath Harold Kinder. It wasn't the fence that caught him, but they have built the cement wall here at Talladega just a little taller
Bobby's
than most
out.
racetracks. There's Bobby getting out of the car. I told you that Bobby's car, though, was heavily damaged. It did stay together. The integrity of the roll cage is intact. The crowd is giving Bobby a very warm welcome out of that machine, but the car lived up to NASCAR standards.
Larry, I think a tire blew. I think I saw a tire coming apart while he was right here in the tri-oval nearing the starting line.
Right rear, it begins to shred, and the car goes out of control. You're at 210 miles an hour. You can see the right rear going. You see the debris there on the left-hand side of your screen. Earnhardt avoids Bobby. The car goes backwards. The aerodynamics get underneath the car, and Allison gets up into the fence. The aerodynamics lifted the car. They're not built to go backwards. Right underneath Harold Kinder. Harold, he stayed in there. Boy, I'll tell you, talk about a trooper. Kinder is right there. He's got the yellow flag out right away. That is a veteran, competent flagman. Here comes the rest of the field down. They've decelerated to maybe 180 miles an hour, but all the debris, there's Petty, there's Kulwicki spinning. There's just nowhere for many of these drivers to go because there's so much of what was left over from the initial impact on the front stretch, and there was just nowhere to go.
And tires began to explode, too, as they ran over debris caused by the Allison crash. Well, it's very rare that you see that catch fencing do its job, but it sure did its job here at Talladega today, as if it hadn't been there or if it had not been as strong as it was, Bobby Allison's car would very clearly have gone into the grandstand right below us here in the broadcast booth. There's the tire going.
Here's another angle of it, and we'll just let you watch it because we've covered it well.
There goes Darrell Waltrip going by without becoming involved in it, but as I said, as the cars came down now, they were running over the debris of the Allison car and tires were blowing, and therefore they became involved in the crash. There's Petty, Alan Kulwicki, Phil Parsons made contact with the Bobby Allison car. We understand that it's brand new catch fencing up here, and boy, we just salute the people here at Talladega for building it as strong as they did. There is a stretcher that we can see down there, a couple of stretchers, as a matter of fact, being lifted into the grandstand area, so perhaps there were some spectators that were hit by flying debris. All right, Phil Parsons did make contact with the Bobby Allison car. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
Well, Phil Parsons still sitting in the car on pit road. The back of the car is just about sheared away at that Copenhagen Oldsmobile, and Parsons talking to the crew chiefs. Apparently his day is over with. I don't think the car will be fixable. They're going to try to bring it behind the wall. Maybe we'll get a comment with Phil in just a moment and find out exactly what happened down there.
All right, so Phil gathering his thoughts, and you can see him sort of gesturing to his crew. I really don't know what happened, but I became involved. There, meanwhile, is the Bobby Allison car that has come to a rest between the start-finish line and turn number 1. The ambulances are there. The track crews are there cleaning up the debris. Well, we will go inside now, Cale Yarborough's car, and see how it looked to him.
There he is following behind Greg Sachs, the Valvoline number 50. The action is beginning to unfold. It's already unfolded up in front of him, and there's Cale trying to weave his way through all the pieces lying on the ground. You can see that Greg Sachs goes into a spin. Greg made a left turn, a right turn. There's Cale. He's trying to avoid Rusty Wallace. He goes sideways. He goes up, gets along the outer wall. I think he avoided significant contact. He brings it back around. It does a reverse spin as he is beginning to fight at the wheel. And now he can use the banking to coast down to the bottom of the racetrack, crank it to the right, try and get that thing to start back up again. The red light comes on, indicating that the engine has been stalled, and then Cale Yarborough can get back around.
A scary moment for Cale Yarborough, and a scary moment for many of these drivers who became involved in this Bobby Allison crash in the tri-oval. There is Richard Petty, who was also spinning, trying to avoid the cars that were in front of him.
A comment, by the way, about Phil Parsons, whose car does appear to be terminally damaged. He was one of the dark horse favorites. As many of you who follow Winston Cup racing know, many times a dark horse will win here at Talladega. And Davey Allison, Sterling Marlin, and Phil Parsons are three of the people who had not won here recently that were definite threats for today.
Once again, a replay from the in-car camera of Cale Yarborough. This is at real speed, so it'll be just as Cale saw it. It appeared as if Cale pretty much had it saved, but was hit a couple of times and then lost control.
Yeah, he got hit from behind. There's no question about that. You could hear it with the audio.
All right, let's go to Jerry Punch again and Phil Parsons.
Well, Phil's still sitting in the car on pit road trying to get the helmet unhooked. And Phil, what happened out there?
I have no idea. You know, my spotter came on the radio and told me there's a big crash in the front stretch. So I was slowing way down right here in the tri-oval and got slowed down pretty good. I was waving my hand because I was in a bunch of traffic, and I probably slowed down to 70 or 80 miles an hour just picking my way through the debris, and somebody hit me from behind, I guess turned me around. I thought somebody else hit me then real hard, but that must have been when I hit Bobby. I heard somebody say that I hit Bobby after I got turned around, so I'm sure that's probably what it was.
Are you going to have to park it now?
I haven't looked at the car. I don't know. Not unless we absolutely have to, I'll assure you of that.
Well, Phil Parsons in the car. Now take a look at the damage on the car as he climbs out. The rear of the car completely collapsed back here, but the important safety feature, the fuel cell is still intact. No fuel leaking from underneath that car. In the back of the car, it's completely shoved in. You see Phil getting out, surveying the damage here. Some of the sheet metal bent, battered. He is completely okay. The driver's compartment intact, but the fuel cell did save that. No fire, no fuel on the racetrack. A good safety feature here in Winston Cup competition.
Thank you, Jerry, for that report from Phil Parsons. Bobby Allison's car, meanwhile, has been loaded onto a flatbed and is being taken off the racetrack, and it's a very badly damaged Miller American Buick that Bobby Allison climbed out of, fortunately uninjured, but we're concerned about some spectators who may have been hit by flying debris. The track security and the Talladega Sheriff's Department is on the scene, trying to keep the crowd under control as they assess the damage and possible injuries. That is the area of the crash, and it is just almost underneath Harold Kinder's starting area. Well, let's once again go down to the pit area for this report.
And I'm with Benny Gertel. He's team manager for Stavola Racing. Benny, you were close to that accident.
Yeah, I was up there spotting for Bobby, and when he come through the tri-oval, the right rear tire blew, and the air picked up the car and sent him right into the grandstands and ripped down portion of the fence. And then when he came back onto the track, spun around a few more times, and he said he was all right for now. And then here come Phil Parsons and hit him again in the door. And then I asked him how he was, and he still said he was all right. So that's racing, I guess.
How about the grandstand? Could you see, is everybody okay up there?
Everybody in the grandstand seemed to be okay from my vantage point, but I'm not really sure, Dick.
Well, that's good news. We certainly hope everybody is okay. Benny Gertel, he was real close to that thing. He said it almost got him.
All right, thank you, Dick. 22 laps have been completed here at Talladega out of 188, and that's kind of ironic because it was the number 22 car of Bobby Allison's that started this multi-car accident here in the tri-oval. There is Allison's car being taken back to the garage area on the flatbed. Well, a scary moment for all of us. We hope that everybody in the grandstand is okay. It appears as if all the drivers managed to escape this very bad crash okay here at Talladega. So we're going to take another commercial break. We are under a red flag condition at Talladega. At Talladega, with 22 of 188 laps completed, there the top 5. Terry Labonte, Bill Elliott, Bobby Allison, Buddy Baker, and Dale Earnhardt. We are under red because of a terrific crash here on the Tri-Oval as Bobby Allison's car blew a tire. But Bobby is okay. You can see him walking around right there, smiling now after gathering his thoughts and calming down just a bit. A tire shredded on the car. He's waving to the crowd now and nearly got into the grandstand. It tore down a huge section of catch fencing. And by the way, as I said earlier, that is new catch fencing. There is Bobby Hillin, Bobby's teammate. That is new catch fencing. And the feeling is that if this accident would have occurred a year ago with the old catch fencing, Bobby Allison could very well have gone into the grandstand.
Yeah, they rust after a few years, and it's difficult to assess just how sturdy it would be. Although it is the absolute contemporary style of fencing, the NASCAR people have been very conscious of putting the utmost to security and safety measures into the design of this racetrack. So it's likely that the old stuff, it might have been a little old, but it was pretty strong, too.
The leader of the race is Terry Labonte. He's with Dick Berggren.
Terry, you were certainly in the right place at that particular moment. First time you've led in a new car. Must feel good today.
Well, it really does. You know, all the guys really got the Budweiser Chevy running super today. It's really handling good. You know, of course, Elliott and some of the other guys are awful strong, but I really feel good about it. The car's working awful good.
People have been talking about the Fords here as Talladega as being the fastest. You're in a Chevrolet. Can a Chevrolet win today? Can you win today?
Well, I hope so.
Okay, that's Terry Labonte. He's in the lead. He's in the best position when the green flag flies again. Now down pit road to Jerry Punch.
Well, Bobby Allison just walked out of the infield care center. First of all, Bobby, are you okay?
I'm okay. Very thankful to the good Lord that I'm not hurt, and I hope nobody else down there is hurt too bad.
What happened down there?
I think I ran over something. I couldn't really tell. Something bounced under the car, and then the tire exploded. And I think I ran over something and cut my right rear tire down, and it spun the car in the tri-oval there, and up in the air it went, and round backwards. So just nothing I could do.
Any recollection of hitting the fence or who might have hit you when you came down?
Well, I knew I hit the fence, and yeah, I recall that quite well. I don't know who else was involved, and I'm very disappointed anyone was involved. I'm very sorry about that.
Well, Bobby Allison, a true champion, even in defeat here at Talladega.
You know, the last couple of races, Larry, we have seen incidents of fans, if I can use that term loosely, throwing beer cans and other debris on the racetrack and really creating a serious situation. I think we have to compliment the fans here, because when that car hit and there was obvious pandemonium down there, most of the spectators kept their cool and rushed to the aid of their fellow spectators.
Most everybody who comes to Talladega is pretty serious and sit up in the main stands, because you have to make a major financial and emotional weekend commitment to come here. And those, for the most part, are pretty hardcore race fans. But you're absolutely right, Bob, that everybody remained in their seats, and everybody kind of stayed back to make certain that everything was under control as the situation unfolded. And really, nobody rushed down and crowded out the safety officials or the law enforcement people. There was no crowd control that was needed. You know, Bobby Allison had, for him, a very typical weekend again. On Friday night, he watched his son Clifford win at the Birmingham International Raceway, local by here, and he spent Friday night repairing Red Farmer's car. He raced himself last night, again on a night with little sleep, and here at Talladega Sunday.
We had an ARCA Permatex 500-kilometer race here on this racetrack yesterday. ARCA competitors. And at the very beginning of that race, Jerry Churchill dropped to the bottom of the racetrack with a blown engine, and that was an indication. Actually, it wasn't a blown engine, but a mechanical problem. And that was the first of many incidents that gave us concern in that ARCA race yesterday.
The ARCA drivers have shown marked improvement on the super speedways in recent years, but this race would not be without one major incident, which really wasn't the fault of any driver or group of drivers. It was similar to the situation we just saw here in the front stretch. There's Dave Fletcher on the inside and Red Farmer on the outside.
And then a flip in the tri-oval as Billy Simmons' car got upside down, the number 17 machine. It landed in the entrance to the pit area. But fortunately, Billy Simmons climbed out of that car. It was a little bit dusty. In fact, it looked sort of like a chimney sweep after that accident, but he was completely uninjured and walked away from the crash.
Summer has come early to Alabama. There is Sergeant Charlie Glotzbeck. Yes, the same one who once held the Alabama International Motor Speedway one-lap track record. The white car there on the low side. Sergeant Charlie Glotzbeck has come out of Indiana, where he has been running dirt track cars the past 3 or 4 seasons. Says, gee, maybe I'd like to do this again. Has he lost anything? No. There he goes by Grant Adcox, who came into this race having won 2 in a row for ARCA here at Talladega.
And then a holocaust in the pit area. While trying to review the Bill Scott car, a fire broke out. And one of the crew members, whose name is Harry Rommel from Nashville, Tennessee, was burned rather extensively. He is suffering 2nd and 3rd degree burns. 3rd degree burns on 5% of his body. He's in the University of Alabama Burn Center, Caraway Methodist Hospital, and we wish him the best. Jeff Bodine saw this occurring and came down as a former volunteer fireman. He pretty much knew what to do, gathered a fire extinguisher, and started to extinguish the flames. That's Rommel being airlifted to the burn center as the race got underway once again.
A number of people appear to be candidates, certainly most notably Glotzbeck. Adcox was right in there. He was certainly a candidate. At this point, Glotzbeck had pitted before many of the other top contenders. We didn't know exactly why. Jeff Hammond told me later he was crewing that car, as a matter of fact, yesterday. He thought maybe they missed something. He didn't understand why everybody did not pit. There's Adcox making his move. And then as they came around turn number 3, we've just had a restart. The field is tightly bunched. And then, watch this.
14 cars pile up, 10 of them unable to compete in the race any further. There you can see the melee down there in turn number 4. A fire breaking out in the Tracy Reed car, but it extinguishes itself quickly. But there was a lot of damaged material down there. No driver injuries, however. Then the finish, Grant Adcox was able to pull away from Charlie Glotzbeck in the closing stages, and Grant Adcox won his 3rd consecutive ARCA race here at Talladega, tying a record set by Davey Allison in ARCA competition and Buddy Baker in Winston Cup competition.
He did make it look easy.
The top 5 finishers in that race, Glotzbeck was 2nd, Red Farmer was 3rd, Bobby Waywack 4th, and Dave Fletcher finished in 5th position.
Might add that all 5 of those people had strong races. There was nobody in that group that backed into position. All of them looked like they were a threat to win.
Well, there is the cleanup going on down near the starting line as they're trying to repair the catch fencing, which will have to be repaired before we could start the race again. The cars are lined up on...
Bob, I think almost everyone, you'd be a fool not to come back in. As one crew member said to a driver, said, look, you know, we've got to come in. I know you want to lead a lap, but you got to come in. We've got to change tires. Richard Petty has significant damage. Mike Waltrip, Sterling Marlin. There's probably at least a dozen cars that had debris in their car, stuck in the grill, somewhere in the body from that disintegrating Allison machine. There's also been glass on the racetrack. Now, it's been swept by the NASCAR officials, but they're going to have to bring everybody on pit road, change the tires, clean the cars up, and check everything out before they let them go back to racing here at Talladega.
All right, Jerry, thank you very much. We do take our hats off to 3 groups of individuals here. First of all, the track security for the Alabama County Sheriff's Department, who have been able to maintain control of this huge crowd very well during this red flag. A couple of minor skirmishes in the stands, but nothing serious. And then, of course, the track repair crews who have worked very diligently and hard in the last few minutes to get this race back underway. Down to the pit area this time to Dick Berggren.
Bob, I'd like to continue in that line, and I'd certainly like to give a good round of applause to the Speedway officials here and to NASCAR as well. The easy way to fix that fence would have been just to have thrown something together, but they've gone down there with 2 welding machines, big heavy steel. They've taken some chain link fence out of a VIP lounge area, parking area, and put it up there. That fence is solid. It's a good piece of workmanship. They've worked very hard on it. It would have been easy to do it the quick and dirty way. Second group, I want to give my hat off to the fans here. They have just sat quietly and patiently. I'll tell you, race fans have to be the best people in the world. It's hot here this afternoon, and there's been no problem at all.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That is the 4th group of people that need to be saluted, because there have been fans displayed. And we've been trying to establish a 1-mile wave, but it has not been able to go the entire length of the grandstand, which is about a mile in length. And there are some people in the infield that are getting ready for the restart. The leader, there he is, Terry Labonte, in number 11. Right behind him is the number 9 Coors Melling Ford, driven by Bill Elliott. Then the 28 car, driven by Davey Allison, followed by Buddy Baker. There's Dale Earnhardt's Wrangler Jeans number 3. Ken Schrader's Red Baron Pizza Car number 90. Sterling Marlin's Piedmont Airlines Oldsmobile. Then Rusty Wallace, followed by Rick Wilson, who is still carrying one of our in-car cameras. There's Morgan Shepherd in the 26. Harry Gant is right behind him. Then the number 64 of Connie Saylor.
Connie Saylor being followed by the 62 car of Steve Chrisman. These are cars that may be a lap down as we get back to this point. 50 car, Greg Sachs. You saw him in that long slide as he went up into the number 1 car. His teammate, Neil Bonnet, number 75. Kyle Petty in 21. Somebody that some people think is one of the potential favorites. Kenny Reagan in 77. Ricky Rudd losing ground in 15 out of the IndyCar ranks. Eddie Pym in car number 98. And Alan Kowicki, big spin down in the infield. Lots of repairs there. The number 73 car of Phil Barkdahl. 82 of Mark Stahl. The 18 car now being driven by Dale Jarrett. There's Darrell Waltrip. And the number 67 machine of Eddie Burschwall. And bringing up the tail, no, it's not the tail line. That's Rick Knoop in 6. 12 car. That's Slick Johnson. That's Bobby Hillen Jr. The line goes on. The 52 car of Jimmy Means picking up a new sponsor this week. Benny Parsons, he also lost some ground. Dave Marcus in 71. And the driver of the number 99 car this week is Joe Ruttman. That is the ball machine from Eastern Tennessee.
And we have 3 cars that are on pit road, namely Richard Petty, Michael Waltrip, and the 55 car of Phil Parsons. 3 cars knocked out because of the accident. Bobby Allison also. The number 1 car is also out of the race. Now,
Bob, I was at that race that day, Michigan 1982, a 5-hour rain delay with the race ending at 9:30 p.m. I could not believe that Winston Cup cars could run until 9:30, but it was in the height of summer, the days, you know, with daylight savings. It was very long, and the shadows were more than shadows. The race ended actually in darkness. I remember being in the pits when Darrell Waltrip came in. And it was a very special sight.
And there is Darrell already strapped in the car, ready for the word to be given to start the cars and resume this race. His windshield being replaced, and with more on that story, here is Larry with this report.
During the running of last spring's 500-miler here at Talladega, Bobby Allison won the event, and that was done despite having to stop and change a windshield during the actual running. Well, it's not uncommon here at Talladega with 200-mile-per-hour plus speeds for a projectile the size of a small pellet to act like a shotgun blast to the front windshield. Now, the crews, they are accustomed to doing this. It's not an every race occurrence for every team, but they are prepared. We have asked the Kodiak crew to help us out here to slow down the procedure just a little bit. It begins when the driver comes in with a razor blade being taken to the silicone sealant that's encircling the front windshield. That breaks the seal. At the same time, an Allen wrench has been taken to those little bolts there in the top, which loosens the front windshield. That is all that holds it in. The old culprit is taken away. The brand new shiny one is put into place. Now here comes the really tricky part. No sealant this time. There is no time during the actual running of an event to do it. Instead, 200 mile per hour, naturally 200 mile per hour tape, now rings the front windshield. The Allen wrench once again fastens those little bolts there on top. The windshield is in place. And while the gasoline is being filled in, the tires are being changed, the windshield job, the replacement of it is complete. Now, this little exhibition took about 30-40 seconds, but the crews tell me during the heat of combat, they can do this in 20 seconds.
And Darrell Waltrip's crew will be standing by in the pit area to make the, there they are, headed by Waddell Wilson. They'll be ready to put that new windshield in when Darrell comes around after the word to start engines is given. Once again, we are 22 laps into this 188-lap race that makes up the Winston 500 here at Talladega. We have been red now for 2 hours and 20 minutes, but by and large, the work has been completed here just below us where the fencing was torn down, so it's just a matter of time now before we can go back to green, and the fans remain very enthusiastic about the race here this afternoon and about getting this race restarted. Over 135,000 people are on hand here this afternoon. That's the largest crowd in Talladega history. So a couple of records have been set here, attendance and the fact that we have had the longest Winston Cup red period in history. We're just about to go back to more competition. Right now, NASCAR and ESPN with a track fact.
There are three primary differences between the tires used on short tracks and those used here at Talladega. First, the surface. The surface of a Talladega tire is very, very thin. There's only about 1/8 of an inch of tread here. That helps dissipate the metal.
We're involved in a very spectacular crash here in the Tri-Oval on lap 22. We were down for 2 hours and 38 minutes to repair some fence. We are only 63 laps into this 188 lap event, and the green flag comes back out once again. The leader is Ken Schrader.